We have talked about setting up your intro in our first key, but before we move on to our second key, the first act, let us talk about what is the difference between the opening of a TV show versus the opening of a movie when it comes to your intro. Hello, extremely intelligent lambs, and welcome back to the Movie Night Reviewer. I'll be your host today, Peter Wary. Let's get started. For those who have not seen it, I will leave in the description below the link to the playlist. This will be on that playlist too, of all my educational videos talking about setting up your intro. If you haven't seen those, you should probably check them out. But for those who have, welcome. We are going to be breaking down what is really the difference between TV shows and movie openings, because there is a big difference. And the first thing that we're going to talk about quickly is that a TV show, you have more time. There's dangers in TV shows, and there's plus sides to TV shows too. One of the dangers of TV shows is that, unlike movies, TV shows, you're not going to have the viewers just stick through it as much, because the pilot is really what kicks them in. If the pilot's not good enough to get people to actually watch it, they're not going to continue watching it. With a movie, yes, as I've talked about in our previous videos, yeah, you always have the chance that the people are going to turn off the TV and just not finish the movie. I know I have found movies where I never finished the movie, and honestly, I don't even remember what movies those were, because the fact of the matter is, I was so bored with this movie and it was so uninteresting that I just turned it off and I completely forgot about it. And that's one of the biggest dangers you can come upon with your movies and all, and with your TV shows, is that they might forget about it. The big thing is, with a movie, while it's definitely a thing that people can turn off the TV, most of the time, people will finish watching the movie, especially if they have nothing better to do. If they have something better to do, they're going to turn it off. I think most of the times that I've turned off a movie because it was too boring and all, was because I had something better to do. I thought of a better movie to watch, or like something like that. Or hey, I'm watching this movie, I have free time on my hands, why am I watching a movie when I could read a book? Something like that. And so you're going to run into that sometimes. But the thing is that with movies, most of the time, as long as you can keep your audience's attention long enough so they can finish the movie, then they finish the whole movie. With a TV show, you have the problem that you have it split up into episodes. So by the end of the pilot, if they are not already invested in the story, they are the ones having to make the choice. Am I going to go on to the next episode, or am I not? There's a little bit more of a danger there, because you're allowing them to have that choice. While with a movie, yes, you can have sequels that, I didn't really like the first one, I'm not going to bother watching the second one type thing. But for the most part, you are going to have them finish the movie. With a TV show, you might set some stuff in the TV show, but you're never going, unless you draw the attention of your audience in, they're not going to click on that second episode. Basically, yeah, it's more likely that your audience is going to turn off the TV after the pilot and just choose not to watch anymore, than with a movie that the fact of the matter is, most people, even if they don't enjoy the movie that much, they're going to finish the movie. But there's always a chance that they will. And so you have to keep their attention for long enough that they will want to watch the second episode. And I think that's the big thing. I found myself watching the first episode of a TV show and then just stopping it because I didn't really like the pilot. It really didn't draw me in. I can recount of 3 occasions that I did this. Now, 2 of those occasions, if I remember correctly, I actually did later on go through like a year later and pick up and keep watching it and watch the series all the way through. But that's the point. I was not interested after the pilot. Eventually, I was like, I'm bored, I'm going to watch the second episode. And after watching the second episode, I was like, oh, I'm going to watch the third, fourth, and found myself, boom, all the way through the series. That's what you need your audience to do. You need to make it so they want to watch the second episode. Because, at least this is in my mind, I came up with this idea back when I first watched The Arrow. But I always tell myself that the first 5 episodes are the most important. While the pilot is the most important one, the first 5 episodes are the most important, because after 5 episodes, I feel like that's long enough that people are going to be invested in the show now. And stuff like The Walking Dead. That show, everyone agrees that that show is going on for way too long. But there's so many people still watching it. The reason that they're invested in the story now, they're invested in these characters. I've never watched The Walking Dead. Of course, I will not spoil what happened in the 5th episode of The Arrow. But I remember watching that episode and being like, yeah, I'm invested in the show now. I had watched it for a long. Now, I would have continued watching it because I like The Arrow anyways. But there was this feeling after that episode, like, okay, now we're really getting into that point where I'm like, I'm invested in this story. I like these characters now. Like, I want to watch more of it. If you calculate it up based on that each episode of a TV show is around 40 minutes, and after 5 episodes, that's 200 minutes. That's around the same amount of time of a movie. The average movie is around from 100 minutes to 200 minutes, or basically an hour and a half, around an hour and a half to 3 hours long. That's the average amount of movie is. There is some exceptions where, you have, a 4-hour movie, but, that's very uncommon. But the point is, so 200 minutes of a season. By that time, that's around, you're a little bit over 3 hours of watching these characters. You're going to be more invested in these characters now. That's why I say the first 5 episodes are the ones you want to really, like, the pilot is the first one. Just like, it's the intro. It's what draws them in. But if you can manage to get them to watch, if you can make it so they're able to watch the 2nd episode, and then the 3rd episode, and then the 4th episode, and then the 5th. It's very likely, after 3 hours or so of watching these characters, that they're going to be invested enough that they're going to finish the series. If they do not like the characters by then, they probably would have already dropped off after the pilot, because the pilot, just like I was talking about, one big thing, and this is something that when I was doing research before starting this YouTube channel, there's some channels I came upon that was talking about, like, starting YouTube channels and all, and one of the things talked about was that of the thing of your niche. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, this is also important for the movie industry. Your niche is basically sci-fi movies having their own, like, is a niche. Superhero movies is a niche. Fantasy movies are their own genre. Normally you would call those, but you could also put them under the thing of niche again. And then under those niches, then you find a smaller niche. For example, my YouTube channel, this YouTube channel, is under the movie review niche. But I'm not just in a movie review niche. In a broad sense, I am Peter Ware's ideas of movies. I am coming from a Christian standpoint of these. I'm coming from a writer's standpoint of these niches. Well, you're going to run into people who are coming from, hey, I'm going to review movies because I am going to school for cinematography, and I want to talk about how great the cinematography are in movies. While I will mention cinematography, I always would draw it back to the story because I have a great love for screenwriting. I've never ever, wrote a screenplay before that actually got, published and all. Of course, I have up in my head ideas and stuff like that, but I've never actually wrote a screenplay before. But I understand my years of school, and I learned a lot about writing, and I understand how to write books, and in my free time, I, continue researching stuff about writing good books and writing good screenplays and understanding, breaking down the screenplay and breaking down the writing of something. So I always will go back to the writing. That's the difference between this, is you take your niche and you break it down into smaller niches. Off this rant, the point I'm trying to get across is, as I've been building up in my educational content, I've been saying stuff like, set up your dark world. Set up that Gotham from the Batman that is dark. And guess what? It's supposed to draw people in. But if people are not wanting to be drawn in, then they will get out. I have come upon TV shows that I saw the first episode, and I only watched the first episode. The reason why? Because after the first episode, I'm like, this is not a TV show for me. And that's the fact of the matter is. Just like how they encourage with YouTube channels and stuff like that, do not go too broad with your niche. Try to, narrow it down. Same goes with, I'm going to say, with TV shows and movies and all. Do not try to get everyone. Yes, you're going to have movies like Endgame, and which really draw almost everyone in. Everyone wanted to watch Endgame because it was the movie of the year. You have movies like that, but the fact of the matter is, while I don't like Star Wars, there's plenty of Star Wars fans. If Star Wars tries to do everything to get to me, it's never going to get anywhere. But if Star Wars tries to do stuff that will get to fans of Star Wars, it's going to get somewhere. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, if they marketed just the same thing with, the Rings of Power, what was one of the things they did bad with that? Is that they tried too much to, let's go and let's try to get the woke people in. Let's try to get all these people in, and then forget about who are the audience. Now, I'm going to have to make I don't want to go on a whole rant about this for too long, because I'm going to have to make whole videos talking about this, but, Rings of Power, they forgot about their main audience, Tolkien fans. What are we going to do about them? Let's call them racist, let's call them homophobic, let's call them all this stuff, and push them away, and then you wonder why your show does bad. Because if you go after the wrong people, it's never going to work. This is one of the biggest complaints with She-Hulk. They spent the whole series insulting the people who like those type of shows. They spent the whole time saying that comic book fans are racist. They're saying all this type of stuff. The people who are your audience, they are trying to push them and say say like a bunch of jokes against them. And then you wonder why your show doesn't do well. So I'm gonna have to make a whole video about this stuff. I'm gonna have to make whole videos about this stuff because I don't want to go on a whole rant about this. But the whole point I'm trying to get at is, if you lose a bunch of people in your first episode, do not say that this is a failure. If you guys make a show and you guys cancel it right away because people dropped off and people didn't want to watch any more of it, guess what? Give it some time, because as long as you have the money to give it more time, you might find that you might have a true audience, right? Just like with YouTube, and how, the fact of the matter is, I'm not going to buy subscribers. I'm not going to do stuff like that, because the fact of the matter is, I buy subscribers so they subscribe so they can get money. Is that the people I want? No, I want people like you guys. I want people who actually want to see my content. People who actually want to learn stuff from me, who want to hear my opinions on movies. I want those people, because the people who are actually going to want to watch my stuff. Same thing is, if people quit your pilot at the beginning, don't freak out. It's okay. It's perfectly okay if they drop off at the first episode, because that is not a show for them. If people did not like the Doc Gotham in the Batman, it's not the movie for them. If people didn't like the complicated science elements in Inception, it's not for them. The fact of the matter is, if you try, yes, you should try to get money, but the fact of the matter is, you're going to get a lot more money if you try to just hit the right people. Hey, people who like Christopher Nolan movies, who like science fiction and all, here's Inception. People who like Star Wars, who found that A New Hope was actually good, here's The Empire Strikes Back. There you go, see? When you go for the right people, you're going to find yourself getting the money. If you try your best to go against the people who actually want to watch a movie, like with The Last Jedi, you're not going to make enough money. Right, the other problem you could run into with TV shows is that a lot of times they have less money. And maybe they have the same budget as a movie, but the fact of the matter is, a movie, again, is only like 100 minutes. Well, a TV show, normal average TV show, is around 880 minutes. That's when you have 22 episodes, 40-minute episodes. That's around 14 hours. You have 14 hours on the show, and you might start out with around the same budget area. You might have a little bit more than them, but you have a lot more. You have 22 episodes to get out of that budget. While with a movie, you only have one movie to get out of it. Yes, that's why a lot of times TV show qualities are not as good as movie qualities. But people who like TV shows, like I love TV shows. I adore TV shows. I think they're better than movies in a lot of ways, and I will talk more about that in other videos about my thoughts on that. But the fact of the matter is, you have less money, so you have to keep that in mind. So now, let's talk about some positives because mainly I've been just talking about the negatives of TV shows. But look, what's the positives? What makes them better than movies? Something that I've noticed is that I'm like, oh my goodness, I love these characters from movies and all. But then when I think about the characters from TV shows, the main character from Grimm, Nick Burkhart, and that I know more about him than I know about a character like even Thor from the MCU, because while Thor has been in a bunch of movies, I had 6 seasons with Nick. Wow, I only had a total of maybe 8 or so movies. Wow, that does add up to around 800 minutes. It's the same amount as one season of a TV show, and the Grimm has 6 seasons, so you have 6 times that amount with these characters. And that's one of the best things about TV shows, is you have more time with the characters. You get to know the characters more. But a little drawback with that would be that, you have the problem that you have to put in filler, because sometimes you don't have enough to fill in the episodes. And that's what makes movies better in that way. Basically, guys, overall, there's positives to both movies and to TV shows. If you want more time to tell your story, TV shows is the best way to go. If you want to just make you just want to make a movie that your audience can just watch, and then maybe you can get them back for a sequel, there you go. That's amazing. But if you have a good enough idea that you can go on for, even if it's only 13 episodes per season, do it. Because the fact of the matter is, you can get your audience even more invested. If they can get past, especially the pilot, because the fact of the matter is, most people who watch the pilot and actually manage to click on the second episode are going to finish the series. That's not always the case, but for the most part, that is the case, that they will always finish the series after watching, at least after they get a couple episodes in. As again, I believe it's around 5 episodes is where you get to the point where if people watch all first 5 episodes, from that on, they're probably going to be invested. Now, you do have the same problem of, once the season ends, are you going to get the back of the second season? I don't know. Hopefully you will. But you never know. Especially because there's a break. There's time for them to think it over, and maybe they start realizing, because they're getting all the hype of, oh, this was a great show, and they start like, maybe I don't want to watch the second season. I know there's some TV shows. Even I put on my list of TV shows that I like, Superman and Lois. And they're coming out with the 3rd season right now. And I watched the first episode, and I haven't got to any of the other episodes. Maybe it's because I've been busy, but it's also just because that episode didn't really draw me in at all. So I might get to watching them later on again, but the fact of the matter is, sometimes you are going to have that problem. Like, I just started into that, and instead of putting on my highest priority, I put other things on my higher priority. Movies, TV shows, and stuff like that I wanted to watch instead, and it kind of just dropped off. And you're going to have people. There's plenty of TV shows I used to follow, I was addicted to, and then they just did something that I didn't like, and I just found that I didn't like it anymore. So you're going to run into that problem sometimes. So overall, guys, yes, so there's positives and negatives to TV shows. The big things we can learn from this is that, the big difference is that you have the pilot is almost its own intro. You have the full pilot to set up your characters, instead of a movie where you have only the first 12 minutes. Yes, you should still try the 12-minute thing with a TV show, but you really have the pilot is its own intro. The pilot is the intro to the show. Then you can take it slower, and you can get your audience more invested. One thing I want to bring up, I will eventually put out a video on this topic, but they just announced that they're going to remake the Harry Potter movies into a TV show. And I will put out a video eventually. I have a lot of videos planned right now, so I don't know if I'll get to it soon. But I'm going to put out a video talking about, probably 2 videos, talking about one about what they could do good with this, and then what the problems with this is. But I'll just say for right now, one thing is that I was eventually going to put out a list of movies and franchises that should never get rebooted. And to be honest, the Harry Potter series was on that list. And so you're already getting some of my ideas of that. I'm not very impressed that they're going to restart it because I think the originals were, while they had their problems, I think they stayed enough true to the books that it didn't feel like we had to get a remake of it. But there can be positives. I will talk about that later. Now, that's not going to come on. That's not going to come about for a while, unless you guys really want it to. If you guys really want to, comment down below that you guys like, hey, we really, really want to see this these Harry Potter videos and your thoughts on this new series sooner. You can say that, or if you really want to, you can use more code words and make it kind of hilarious. Like say something like, if you want it, just say something like Lumos Fanius, or I don't know, say something that's kind of like gives the idea of, hey, we want to see this sooner. You can type it out, or you could just say something like that. I will hopefully see those, and yeah, because I can move my schedule around a little bit. Some of my schedule is planned out in a special way, like with this one. Now that I talked about setting up your pilot, next week I'm going to be putting out a video for my personal opinions on my top 10 favorite pilots to TV shows. And then next week, my educational topic will be on the difference between the openings of movies when it comes to musicals and non-musicals. And then that following week, after that, I'll be putting out my top 10 favorite musicals. You see what I'm getting at? There's some plans of like how I'm scheduling stuff to make it so we learn about this, and then immediately I'm like, hey, next week I'm going to be talking about my personal opinions on this stuff, of what's my favorite ones. But I can move some stuff around with, like, after maybe 2-3 weeks from now, I'll about to get to the Harry Potter thing. Or maybe I'll say, hey, people clearly want to see this Harry Potter thing more than they want to see me talk about my favorite pilots of the shows. I will move that to the next week after that, and I will talk about this for you guys, because the fact of the matter is, this is not just for me, this is for you guys. I am making these videos. I'm having a lot of fun in making these videos, but in the end, they are made for you. They're not just made for my enjoyment. So, if you guys want to see something, tell me, so I can change up the schedule so you guys can see that. Or you guys can just wait. I don't know, whatever you guys want. But it's up to you guys in the overall, if you guys really want to see a video be sooner than it's on schedule, as long as it's not like my educational topic, I will keep it to the normal schedule. I'm not going to jump to the 4th key and then jump back to the 2nd key or something like that. I will keep it in the order of 1st key, 2nd key, 3rd key, 4th key, 5th key, stuff like that. Overall, guys, tell me your thoughts below. If you have any idea for movies that you want me to review, any ideas of educational things you want to hear me talk about when it comes to screenwriting and making movies and all. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys haven't yet, please subscribe. We're at like 70 subscribers on that, which is amazing, and I'm hoping we can get to more. Again, as I've talked about before, once we reach 100, if you guys really want, I guess I haven't really asked you guys if you want to, but you can comment down below that too. Do you guys actually want to see a video about me answering questions of US's on me and on like my opinions on stuff, as long as it doesn't get into too personal stuff? Do you guys actually want to see that? Because if you guys don't want to see that, I won't put out that video, because I only put on that video if you guys actually want to see that. So comment down below if you guys actually want to see that video. Thank you guys for watching. This has been the Movie Night Reviewer, Peter Wary, signing off.